Hi folks, HR Funk here. With my Military Armament Corporation Model 1014 shotgun, and mounted to it is the Osight that I received last spring. At that time, I was part of a group of individuals who received a pre-release copy of the Osight for testing and evaluation. And since that time, I have tested this sight pretty extensively. I've used it on several different firearms. I've also acquired some additional Osights that I'm using on other firearms. And I've become quite a fan of this optic. It's done everything that I would have wanted it to do. It is rechargeable, although I have never recharged this optic. I charged it in early May of 2024 as I record this. This is the end of the first week of January of 2025, and it's still operating on that initial charge. In fact, I'll show you what the charge is that's left in this sight in a little bit during this video. But when I initially reviewed this sight, I thought the only thing I think that would make this better is, first off, if it had a multi-reticle system. Now, some of you know that I'm a fan of the circle dot style reticles with the large circle around the smaller center dot. I just think those are a little faster, at least for me. And also, since the original Osight only came in an RMR footprint, I would have preferred an RMSC size Osight for my carry handguns. Well, since that time, Osight has addressed both of those issues, and in this video, I'm going to tell you about the brand new Osights that have just been released, and you can see whether you think they might work for your carry and shooting needs. So here we go. And here are both of the new Osights, and if everything goes according to plan, you should be seeing this video on January the 21st of 2025. And both of these sights are being released today. The sight that you see on the left is the Osight S, and as you can see, it is an enclosed emitter style sight, and this is sized for the RMSC footprint, so it's going to work with all of your smaller, more concealable carry firearms. And on the right is the Osight X, which is the same size dimensionally as the original Osight, but both of these optics have multi-reticle systems. They both have a selection between either a 3-minute of angle dot, a 32-minute of angle circle, or the 32-minute of angle circle around the 3-minute of angle dot. That's selectable by the user, and I'll talk about exactly how that's done as we go on in the video. Since today I'm going to be discussing two optics rather than just one as I normally do, I decided to dispense with the normal unboxing segment of the video to try to save some time, and rather I just laid everything out that comes with both of the new Osights. Essentially, they both come with exactly the same thing. They both come with user manuals, they both come with a README card, and this is sort of a quick start guide. One side of this has mounting instructions and the other side has zeroing instructions. They both have USB power cables. They both have a selection of screws, and the screws are nice because they come in the four most common thread pitches that are used for mounting optics to your handguns or any firearm for that matter. And each of the four screws has two different lengths. So there are 3 longer screws and 3 shorter screws. So if you have a firearm like, say the RXM back here that's sensitive to having a screw that's too long on one side that can impair functioning of the extractor, you have a shorter screw with the correct thread pitch that you can use so you don't have that problem. So that's nice to have that selection of screws. There are 3 of each thread pitch, and then 3 of each length. So you get 6 screws for each thread pitch, 3 long ones and 3 short ones. I hope that makes sense. Each of the sights also comes with a charging hood. One thing to be aware of with the Osight S is it's the only Osight so far that doesn't use the same charging hood as all of the Osights that have come out to this point. The X does use the same one, but the S uses a different one because it's a different shape since it's an enclosed emitter type optic. Both of these have an Osight tool that come with them. Both of them have a little carry pouch, and both of them have this mysterious little lanyard, and it took me a while to figure out exactly what this is for. But on the new charging hoods, there is a little place to attach that lanyard right there, so I guess that makes it easy to be able to carry with you if you're traveling around, or you can attach it to your key ring or hang it wherever you want to, but that's what the lanyard's for, is to attach to the charging hood. And I think I covered everything that comes with both Osights. If I missed something, hit me in the comments section. You can ask me what I missed. So in case you're someone who's unfamiliar with the Osight, I'm going to cover a couple of common things quickly that are going to be the same for all versions. First off, the Osight was the industry's first magnetically recharging optic, and the way these work is there are no batteries that you install or remove. The sight is completely rechargeable, and it's rechargeable by means of this magnetic charging port on the top. In order to charge the sight, you use the charging hood or charging cover, and this thing has a battery that is also charged. So using the power cord that has a USB-C connector right there, you charge the sight, and you can check the amount of charge that's left in the cover just by pushing this button on the side. And you can see we have over 3/4 of a full charge. On a full charge, the cover will completely recharge the sight 3 times. Now, when you place the cover on the sight, it is now showing, if you can see that right there, how much charge is left in the Osight. Now, as I said, I initially charged this sight in early May of 2024, and it still has maybe 20% of the original charge. You can also check the sight by pressing either the plus or minus button on the side, and you see this little button, or excuse me, this little light here in the center. It has different colors. When it's green, you have over a 50% charge. I believe yellow is from 50% down to 30% or something like that. Then it's red down to, I believe, 10%. And below 10%, this would be flashing. So there is still over 10% of the charge in the battery of this sight that has now been charged for, what are we up to now? About 8 months or something like that. Now, no, I'm not using this sight every single day. It has not been in constant use. It does power down when it doesn't sense movement after 10 minutes, and it has shake awake, so as soon as I move it again, it powers right back up. Even so, this sight has been subjected to high water spray. It's been subjected to drop tests. You can see a few battle scars on there. I froze it in my freezer. And it still is working and still going on that initial charge. And the only reason I've not recharged it yet is I'm waiting to see just how long it's going to take for it to run completely down. And when it gets to that point, I'll report that to everyone, because I've had some folks that have commented about not having a battery that can be replaced in the sight, and that causes them some concern. With as long as the charge lasts in these and as easy as they are to recharge, you don't even have to buy a power source. As long as you have your cover charged, you can be on the range or wherever and drop that on there and charge the sight back up. So that's a real quick rundown on the Osight in general. Now I'm going to talk about a little bit more specific information on the brand new sights that were released today. Moving on to the new Osights that were just released today, I'll start things off with the Osight X, because that's the closest to the original Osight that's now been out for several months. And if you're familiar with the original Osight, the Osight X is also going to seem very familiar to you. In fact, about the only thing I can see outwardly that looks different about the X is that it has the X engraved on the side. Other than that, functions are still pretty much the same. It still uses the same charging cover. In fact, I had one of my older charging covers I put on here a while ago just to make sure. Now, about the charging cover, there are some folks that do not like these things for several reasons. First off, some people just don't like them at all. They would rather be able to just put a charger on the site itself and dispense with the cover altogether. But the nice thing about the cover is you can charge this thing up and take it with you and recharge your site as needed with the cover, without having a power source anywhere to plug the power cord into that you might otherwise have to use. Now, obviously, that means you do have to keep track of the cover. You can't lose this thing, and you need to make sure you have it if you're going to be charging your site. But as I talked about a few minutes ago, the site holds its charge for a long, long time. So I'm not real concerned about the ability of the site to stay charged or anything else. In fact, with the Osight X, it's rated, if you're using the dot only, the 3 minute of angle dot only, at the lowest daylight setting. There are 12 brightness settings for this. The first two are low light settings, and then there are 10 daylight settings. If you're on essentially setting number 3, or the lowest daylight setting, using the 3-minute of angle dot only, it has a projected battery life of 57,000 hours. That's over 6.5 years. So the Sight battery lasts a long time. For those of you that might want to know, if you're using the circle only, then it goes down to about 2.5 years. And if you're using the circle dot reticle, again on that number 3 setting, then it's a little less than 2.5 years. It's about 2.25 or a little bit more years. So again, there's really not a concern in my mind for this Sight holding its charge. Now, some folks are also worried about the battery just going bad and not recharging anymore or what have you. Osight has a lifetime warranty on these Sights. So if you have a problem, contact Osight and they will repair or replace your Sight under their lifetime warranty. Another concern with the recharging cover is that with some handguns, people have installed the Osight, and the first time they go to use their cover, they can't get it in place because the rear sight on their handgun interferes with installation of the charging cover. And something I noticed when I was looking at these, and I don't think Osight made this known to anyone, is it appears to me that they have opened up this area at the rear of the charging covers, and I'm going to try to get this to focus so you can see what I'm talking about here. There we go. The new cover is the one that is on your right as you're looking at that, and you can see that's opened up a little bit more to try to alleviate that problem with not fitting on the rear sight of some handguns or past the rear sight. So hopefully that's going to at least mitigate that problem, if not do away with it altogether. Also sharing in common with the original Osight is the fact that the Osight X is built on the RMR footprint, and I had no problem whatsoever direct mounting it to the slide of the Ruger RXM that you see here. It has the same multi-coated glass, so when you look through the lens, it is a clear view that you have of your target. And one of the things I noticed with the Osights is there's not a great deal of tint, maybe just a little bit. When I look through the lens, I can see a little bit of maybe a bluish tint, but not as much as I see with some optics. The field of view is the same large field of view that we get with the original Osight, and for anyone who's interested, the measurements for the window are 0.94 inches top to bottom and 0.85 inches left to right. It has the same windage and elevation adjustments, which are graduated in 1 minute of angle clicks, and there's a total adjustment for both windage and elevation of 45 minutes of angle, so there shouldn't be a problem zeroing these sights. The Osight X maintains the light sensor feature, and you can see the sensor right there. So you can either put the sight in light sensing mode, or you can use it in manual mode to adjust the brightness of the reticle. For the manual mode, it's very simple. Simply press the plus or minus button to increase or decrease the brightness respectively. Or in light sensing mode, the sight will automatically brighten or dim to match the ambient light conditions in which you find yourself. Now, I've never been a real big fan of auto light sensing, dimming, or brightening of the sight because it seems like it's never quite on exactly the level of brightness where I want it. So typically I keep my sights in manual mode, but there's a change in the Osight X, and this is also going to be the same in the Osight S when I get to that one. And that is when the sight is in light sensing mode, you can brighten or dim the reticle by one brightness level, either one brightness level brighter or one level dimmer. So I think I might like that. I'm going to have to try that out and see what I think of it, because if it's just one brightness level, and usually that's about what it is. Normally when I have it in auto brightness mode or auto sensing mode, the reticle is just a little dimmer than I would prefer it to be. So if I can make it one click brighter, that might be just where I want it. And I might end up starting to leave these newer Osights in the auto sensing mode. I'm going to have to try that out and see what I think of it, as I said. It's time to take a look at the reticle of the Osight, and as we're looking at it, I'm going to talk about some of the settings that can be selected by the user and talk about the controls that are used in order to obtain those settings. First off, to manually turn the sight on, simply press and release either the plus button or the minus button, and as you can see, that powers up the reticle. I always have to add this caveat: the reticle looks better when you're actually looking at it than it does through the camera. I do my best to try to get it focused, but it still never looks as good in the camera lens as it does to your eye. To manually power the sight down, press and hold both the plus and minus buttons simultaneously, and that will turn the sight off. The Osight comes from the factory set on the motion sensor mode. What that means is if the sight senses no movement for a period of 10 minutes, the reticle will power down, but if it senses any movement, it will instantly turn back on. That helps to preserve the battery, and that's something that I like a lot. I've never picked up one of these sights on a firearm and had it not illuminated by the time I got it to my eye, so it comes back on very, very rapidly. That can be changed. If you would prefer to turn the sight off and turn it on manually, you can disable the motion sensor mode and the shake awake. By the way, the Osight X does have a memory, so if you manually power the sight down and then later on manually turn it back on, it comes back to the same settings that were in place when you turned it off. The reticle for the Osight can be changed by pressing and holding the minus button for more than 3 seconds, and it will toggle through the 3-minute of angle dot only, the 32-minute of angle circle only, and then we're back to the circle dot. So very simple to change from reticle to reticle. And overall, the settings on the Osight are simple to work your way through. It takes a little bit of time to get used to them and try to memorize all these, but it's not nearly as difficult as it might seem when I'm talking about these in the video. The Osight X is constructed of 70-75 aluminum, and at least in my testing, the Osight has been very durable. Dimensionally, it is 1.77 inches long, 1.18 inches wide, and 1.30 inches high, and the weight is listed at 1.62 ounces. On we go to the Osight S, and the first thing I'll tell you is that everything I just got done explaining with the Osight X with regard to construction materials and adjustments and settings, etc., are exactly the same with the Osight S as they were with the Osight X. So I'm not going to go back through those things again. I'm going to concentrate on the things that are different about this sight, beginning with the fact that this is built on the RMSC footprint, meaning, as I said at the beginning of the video, this is appropriate for smaller carry-type handguns. There was no problem direct mounting it to my Masada 9S here. It screwed right onto it as though it was made for it, and I was able to torque it down to the settings, which I didn't mention before, but there are torque settings for these screws that are included in the Osight manual, or excuse me, the Osight manual. And both of these are torqued down to 17 foot-pounds. So if you're curious, that's the setting for these. Now, as I said, the charging cover for the Osight X, excuse me, the Osight S, it's hard to keep these straight sometimes, is different. It works exactly the same as the other cover, but if you try to use one of the other larger covers, it is not going to work, because this is an enclosed emitter system and the housing is just a little bit bigger. The benefit of an enclosed emitter system on a defensive handgun is the fact that it completely seals out environmental elements. So rain, snow, dust, etc. are not going to get inside the sight and interfere with the emitter's ability to project the reticle onto the lens. Speaking of the lens used in the Osight S is an aspherical lens, so it's parallax free and it gives you good clarity with zero distortion. The Osight S has the exact same reticle options as the Osight X, and once again the reticle looks much better to your eye than it looks in the camera lens. But by pressing and holding the minus button, we can toggle through the dot only, the circle only, and the circle dot. This sight has the same 12 brightness settings, 2 of which are night vision appropriate, and the other 10 are for normal daylight conditions. Something that does change with the Osight S as opposed to the Osight X is the battery runtime. With the 3-minute of angle dot only on the lowest daylight brightness setting, the battery life is rated at 21,900 hours, which is about 2.5 years. If you have either the 32-minute of angle circle or the circle dot reticle, both of those are rated at 20,000 hours, which is still a little over 2 years. So still great battery life, and obviously you can still check it by clicking one of the buttons on the side to see what color the small light is between those buttons, or simply by putting the recharging cap back on, and you can see how much battery life is left. Also different with the Osight S are the windage and elevation adjustments. The increments are still in 1 minute of angle clicks, but the total windage and elevation adjustment available in the Osight S are 35 minutes of angle as opposed to 45 minutes of angle in the Osight X. Not surprisingly, the window dimensions are also different on the Osight S. The measurements left to right are 0.83 inches and top to bottom are 0.55 inches. The other dimensions for this optic are the overall length is 1.59 inches, the thickness is 0.98 inches, the height is 0.97 inches, and the weight is listed at 0.97 ounces. And as I said before, and I just want to reiterate, all of the other features that I mentioned with the Olight X, the shake awake, the auto brightness, the light sensing, etc., 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 are exactly the same with the Olight S as they were with the Olight X. Osight is listing the MSRPs for these two new optics as $249.99 for the Osight S and $229.99 for the Osight X. But in conjunction with today's launch, there is special introductory pricing. What I'm going to attempt to do is list all the details of that special introductory pricing in the information section of this video, and if you look there and it's not there, that means YouTube wouldn't allow it. But go to the product page of my website and I will have it listed there as well. You're not going to want to miss out on that information because it's going to save you some money if you decide to order either one of these sites, or if you decide to order both of them. My experience with the original Osight over the course of the last 8 months or so has been very, very positive. I expect both of these new optics, the Osight S and the Osight X, are going to continue on in that same tradition. The next time you see these sights, it's going to be on the range for some performance testing. But I wanted to get this first look video up now so you can start to get an idea of what these optics are all about and start to determine whether or not you think they might meet your own shooting needs. That's going to do it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. See you next time, folks, and until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.